Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Off-White Coat podcast. I'm your host, Jordan Abney, and today I have somebody that I really wanted to talk to. I met him during a EM rotation. He went to the same school as me. He went to SGU. I heard many great things from all of our peers about him, and he's a very kind person. He's going through a very similar situation that I'm going through with deciding between residencies, and he's gotten a chance to sit down and talk to me today. So, Ryan Conklin, thank you for meeting with me today.
Yeah, of course. Happy you're able to have me on and be able to do this together.
Yeah. So, Dr. Conklin over here, so I guess we both went to SGU, right? What made you choose to go to St. George's?
I applied once, didn't get in, did like 3 years of sales, decided that wasn't for me. I was going to sell like CT, MRI machines. And they're like, well, before you do that, you have to sell copy machines for 3 years. So they're like, you don't have to do great, but it's a testament if you're able to stay in the same company and for 3 years and be successful. Stayed
Mm-hmm.
in it for 3 years. Um, did a relatively good job. Was successful. Could have stayed in the industry if I wanted to. However, I was just super bored. Applied again. Um, just had one score on my MCAT that, despite my overall score being really good or like average, I just was not good at reading verbal reasoning. So didn't have the best scores getting a United States school. So of the Caribbean, SGU was the like basically the only choice that I saw as viable option. I knew physicians who had gone there, and so it was kind of a no brainer for me to pick SGU, and then went in there, and here I am.
Yeah, the Harvard of the Caribbean, baby.
Right?
Um, no, that I had a very similar situation because I think I tested very average, and
Okay.
that's not what they really want when you're going for a U.S. medical school.
No, definitely
And
not.
when I was looking, I mean, St. George's just kind of, hell, their advertising alone, they have a strong advertising market. So I don't know. I just felt like that was going to give me the best opportunity as far as a Caribbean medical school. And I think it definitely gives you like that chip on your shoulder when you're going through. Like there's something about it. Like I guess going to the Caribbean island or whatever. Um, did you enjoy your time in Grenada?
Oh, I loved it there. At first, I was in what like their dorm setting. I didn't really enjoy that so much, having like had my own apartment and having so much freedom. But then I once I got off campus, like I was able to enjoy the island. I was able to like do well in school, get the good marks, get you know, as well as grades, and was able to enjoy the island as well. So overall, it was a very positive experience for me going to medical school there. And then my third and fourth year, I was able to be incorporated into a good um, third and fourth year medical rotation through Hackensack Meridian in New Jersey. So it worked out great. I was very
Mm-hmm.
happy with my experience with SGU.
And did you want to stay in the New Jersey, New York area? Like when you said you got that rotation up there?
Yeah, originally I thought I was just going to be in New York because that's the primary spot where they have most of their hospitals that they're affiliated with. And so I kind of had an idea going into medical school that I was going to be out on the East Coast coming from Wisconsin. I just, had that idea in my head. So, and then staying out there was very natural for me.
Oh, okay. Where are you from? Oh, I guess you're from Wisconsin, so you just wanted to
Yeah.
kind of, okay.
So
Um,
I'm like a small town in between like Milwaukee and Madison, kind of like a farm town, Eagle, Wisconsin. So
hmm
that's where I grew up.
Nice. And yeah, he's currently on his way there now. He's going back home. He's on vacation. And so if the sound quality we might go in and out or whatever, but it's because I've caught him on his free time, which is driving.
Yeah,
I
true.
mean, it happens. You're a busy man.
Yeah.
So I guess a little bit of backstory why this conversation means so much to me is I was kind of debating between surgery and EM and I constantly am still in this little internal turmoil. And the same thing happened to you, correct?
Yeah, I had a
And,
little bit of a similar struggle. Not denying that. I had applied emergency medicine really the first round, and I was couples matching. I got plenty of interviews. I got like 12 to 14 videos. However that match works with the algorithm and matching just was my girlfriend was also applying emergency medicine. It was just very difficult. I didn't match. Ended up soaping into Rutgers surgical prelim spot for a year, and then
mm-hmm.
fell in love with surgery while I was there. And then kind of around this time had to make a very similar decision. Do I want to apply emergency medicine like I initially did, or did I want to fall in line with what I was practicing, which was surgery at the time? So I
And
had the same
okay.
decision. Yeah.
Yeah, and you said it was a prelim, right? So it wouldn't have cost you. You would have still had to go that extra year in the surgical spot or between switching between EM and surgery, correct?
A possible one. I did apply both emergency medicine and surgery the second round, and there were second year positions open where I could go from a prelim
Mm.
surgery one into a categorical two. Was a
Okay.
possibility. Um, Obviously, it would have been great. It's not common, but I was interviewing for those positions.
Yes, I'm glad you mentioned that because most of the people don't mention that at all. Like that's an option. But I mean, I know it's not very common, but it's a possibility that, you really hope for, but I know understand that that could be a difficult one to
Yeah,
sway.
I mean, obviously that's the dream is a prelim surgery like resident to match in a categorical two.
Yeah.
It's possible people also, if they don't fill their positions after like the match, they kind of soap or scramble those positions as well. So it's definitely possible.
Mm. So you weren't heavily you were all for EM first, but then when you got into surgery, you fell in love with surgery?
Oh yeah, I was my first rotation. I did a gen surge rotation, and then my second rotation, I did thoracic surgery, and I just fell in love with it. Like that was the happiest spot I was in the hospital. Was in the operating room doing those surgeries. I had a great chief. I had a great two great surgeons that were taught me through everything. Were great mentors. They're still a mentor for me. I wrote a chapter in a book with one of them for like AI based like surgery, um, and so was very impactful on my decision in regards to do I want to continue with surgery or do I want to go emergency medicine like my original plan was.
Mm-hmm. And so I guess spoiler alert, you chose the EM route. But
I,
huh?
that I did.
But
And so,
what was what made you decide
so it was
between
tough. Yeah, it was one of those harder life decisions, that's really going to, there's very few decisions in your life that truly dictate the course of your life. I mean, for most people, you have a job, you can quit at any time, you can start a new career for most jobs. But when you're, when you're going into thoracic surgery, and that was what I want, that was the end goal, it's tough to,
Whew.
decide not that you don't want to do that anymore. So I thought it was a pretty crucial decision. My
Mm-hmm.
program director at the time was great. He sat down with me. He talked through, my thought process, what I was looking for out of life. He spent a lot of time with me. There was people in emergency medicine who did likewise. And to summarize that whole process, what made my final decision was actually I was at Starbucks studying for my ABSITE at the time, which is the surgical like in-service exam. And I'm going into Starbucks and I call my mama. I'm telling she knows about this problem, or not problem, but decision that I have to make and the problem that I had making the decision. And she's like, what's your end goal? Like, what do you want out of life? Like, let's put job aside, training, whatever. She's like, what do you want? And something that's very important to me in my core is I just want freedom. I think it's silly that we live in this rat race where we have so many like regulations and rules to live by. I'm like, I just want freedom to do whatever, I kind of want, whether that means, living out in Montana and having my freedoms out there, or, financially being able to do what I want, as well as not being constrained by a job. She's like, okay, well, how does that line up? And, the obvious answer is, you can't really you don't have that much freedom as a thoracic surgeon. And there was
No.
some, yeah, and on top of that, there's a lot of entrepreneurial things I wanted to do, and so the clear answer at that time was go emergency medicine, practice that, and then if that transitions into entrepreneurship, then and owning my own company, then that's the route I go down. So that's what I decided to do.
Hmm. I mean, I do not blame you. That is kind of exactly, I mean, you summarize it so perfectly. The rat race, everything. I don't want to completely spend all of my time at the hospital where, because I see some of these doctors and even some of the ones like I'm like the higher up they are, the less time they have. And so you really want to get good at your craft, but then the better you are at your craft, the less time you have because so many more people are going to need you.
Definitely.
And it's it's really really tough, and that's what has been weighing on me too. Because I literally had this discussion with my girlfriend the other day, where she was just like, I really enjoy being around other people. I'm like really leaning towards surgery, but she's like, well, you also get to see, you won't get to spend time with your friends anymore. And I was like, yeah, you're right. Like some of those people were in like EM rotations and stuff, or EM residencies, and they had a little bit more free time. I was like, yeah, you just definitely don't have near as much free time or freedom in general,
Correct.
because your free time is complicated by, all of your other, which yours, you have entrepreneurial endeavors and everything else. So your free time is probably short as it is, but you certainly have it feels like a little bit more. Maybe you can attest to that more.
Yeah. So you have to look at short term, long term. As a resident, a surgical residency is a lot more intense than emergency medicine. It's just the nature of surgery and what it requires to be a surgeon, rightfully so. That's
Mm-hmm.
also, that's depending on if you do a fellowship, usually like 6 to 7 years. If you do research, maybe 8 years if you do a surgical residency, versus 3 to 4 years if you do an emergency medicine. And then you'd also have to look at your life after that. Like, what is that going to look like? For
Yeah.
me, I get pretty, no matter what I do, I get going like 100%. So I knew I was going to commit no matter what. I had no problem living in the hospital. I was okay with that. I'm sure my girlfriend wasn't all right with that, but it was something I was ready to do. And that's a commitment you have to make to be a
Mm-hmm.
surgeon, is that your life is dedicated to your patients, to to your job, because that's what it entails, and that's something you have to think about as you're making a decision moving forward.
That's so true. What were your hours like in surgery? Did you ever like write it down or calculate it?
Yeah, I mean, you're right, technically speaking, right around that 80 hours a week. I mean, plus or minus depending on the week, but you worked. You're in the hospital. You got your everything was, I mean, surgery oriented. That's just kind of the way your life was. You're definitely
Mhm.
working 80 hours a week on average for every month for 12 months, well, especially as an intern. So,
Yes. And then
I mean,
even if, yeah, carry on.
that's just the nature of the beast of surgery.
And when you're even going home, you need to look up procedures or try to figure out what's going on for the next day. It's like it never really feels like it ends. Even the residents that
Yeah,
go home, they get texts from the students to do things and then they handle it. And it's like, man, you should be asleep. It's like 12 o'clock.
yeah. I mean, that's true. I had the old program director at Rutgers. She told me, she's like, in reality, because I went over this decision with her as well, the previous program director, and she's like, in reality, I mean, you're 100 to 120 hours a week you only work 80 hours in the hospital, but then you're studying for your abscite. You should be reading your whatever book you have, if it's Sabinson or whatever, you should be doing your daily readings, and it's a big commitment.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's certainly a big commitment. So uh I'm I'm quite torn. So how are your hours in the EM for your, because you're now an EM resident, correct?
Yes.
So how are your hours like for the first couple months? Because you've only been doing it for how many months?
Yeah, so it's what, September now, so I got 2 months under my belt
Okay.
in the emergency department.
How has that been
I
going?
would Great. I mean, I love it. I have to get used to the system. I like to think of it as like a game. You just have to understand the hospital, how each department works, admitting and knowing who goes where and what. That's like the challenging part for me because I have a understanding and basis of medicine at this point after doing a year of surgery. And so I would say I would work 60 to 70 hours a week with
Okay.
notes and everything. People, say that, oh, you're in the emergency department, you don't work that long. With notes, like, I mean, you got to make sure that they're done, and that takes up a lot of time. So you're still in there more than other residents think, like surgery residents. Like, oh, you're in and out. You have like 50-hour work weeks. It's like, well, I usually work 55 to 65 hours. Like I'm in the hospital, then I have another 2 hours of notes 5 times a week. So that adds another 10 hours. So that puts me at like 65, 70.
Mm-hmm. That's what people don't realize is even after your shift's over with, you still have to complete every bit of notes and everything that didn't happen. So if a person comes in, well, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, somebody crashes right before you leave, you have to document all that stuff. It can take a little bit of time. You're going to be
Yeah.
staying late. Uh, but so with that, I mean, do you have, so I guess it's pretty clear though that you have way more time with emergency medicine. Did you find that because you've already done a year of surgery, did you find that transitioning to EM, like just because you've already had a year of residency, you've been able to handle some of the situations that come up in the emergency department as opposed to just being a fresh new intern?
Oh, yeah. I mean, 100%, definitely. I'm used to
Mm-hmm.
dealing with, patients that are crashing or having problems where I'm running around on the floors in surgery, handling everything. So the transition well to the emergency department where I don't feel overwhelmed with the acuity of the sick patients that come in. I know my place, I know what I need to get done. I know how I can best help as part of the team member, even as an intern, what my role is, how I can help. And I'm very hands on and can anticipate the needs of the patient compared
Mm-hmm.
to some of my um, other interns, which I mean, they were just medical students 2 months ago. So I wouldn't expect them to have the same level. Everyone's great that I work with. It's just
Mm-hmm.
for me, it's very comforting, and how the patients that come in and how to appropriately treat them.
Yes. Yeah. The acuity is what I find sometimes what you have to be the most prepared for as an emergency physician. Like you need, like it's all fine and dandy if the person just comes in and he's just a little drunk and he just has to sit in there. But it's when someone comes in and they got a knife wound to their neck and you've only got a certain amount of time. That's when the training really shows. And so, I mean, if you can handle more acute or, more serious situations, then you're all the better for that, especially at the very beginning, because it feels like I feel like it's like I would be drowning. I know, you're like, oh shit, I don't know what to do.
Yeah, I mean, it's a huge learning curve, right? You go into
Mm-hmm.
medical school, that's a big learning curve the first like year. I think it's a lot of information. It's the same thing when you go from medical school to, first year residency. Then even each year of residency, it's a different learning curve in its own like respect.
Yeah. Did you have so just because we were talking about serious stuff, and I want to ask this: is there anything that comes into the ER that makes you like a little bit nervous, or like you're not quite comfortable taking care of yet?
I mean, I'm only a one, so there's like still a lot that I haven't seen in regards to comfort. I feel like I have good resources around me in like my second and third years. If I ever have a question, they make sure that they take the time to be there for me, give me the support that I need. My attendings are great.
Hmm.
Personally, like say without them, there's a lot of the medicine aspect of like practicing emergency medicine I'm not that comfortable with in regards to like dosing of medications and everything and how to appropriately treat, certain medical conditions. It's just a little different than surgery. I'm just unsure of, the appropriate route. I have the way I learn and understand, I have a very engineering like mindset. So I understand the concepts are always fine. It's more of the specific um, almost like facts that you have to memorize that I need to
I
like
got
look
you.
up or ask people like what would you do here? I know what in general what I should be doing, but like what's my dosing? What would you start with? So that's where I feel most uncomfortable with in regards to patient care.
Mm. Okay, so there's not like a procedure or something, because I know, especially for med students that just become interns, it's usually like a procedure, like a central line, something you didn't get a lot of practice with. And then they're like, okay, we're going to need a central line. And they're usually like, oh, uh-oh. Like I've done
Yeah.
this
So
once.
fortunately for me, I did 2 months of vascular surgery as an intern, and so I
So you're
had done a
ready,
lot of
dude. You're
yeah.
ready.
So I was ready for a lot of the procedures, and as an intern, you do a lot of the ED procedures that the emergency department's uncomfortable with, and that's why they're consulting you. So all the stuff that the emergency department's usually uncomfortable with, I've done or at least been a part of a lot of those procedures.
Hmm. And that's why I was like, I felt like you would be very prepared for it, because even when you were coming in the first couple days of your EM training and everything, because I was happened to be part of those, it just seemed, like you would have had a handle on it. So I was like, that at least is one of the benefits.
Yeah, definitely.
Was there anything in surgery that kind of in the similar way, like procedures or anything that they asked you to do that, um like, was it, because my thought is surgery is a whole nother different ball game. You got to learn all these different skills, all these different ways of doing things. Did they kind of ease you into it whenever you became an intern, or were you kind of thrown into the fire?
You're thrown into the fire for the most part. At least I was. Usually, so with time, you learn your skill set, you know what you're comfortable with. And my team trusted me with my assessment of what I was comfortable with and what I wasn't. If I needed help, I wasn't afraid to like call for help. However, if it was within my skill set and I felt comfortable doing whatever procedure I needed to, or they said go do this, I would go do it.
Mm-hmm.
So
Nice.
that's more of understanding yourself and your skill set was
Okay.
probably the most important in regards to like what I would do.
Mm-hmm. Because yeah, that's the one thing I'm like, oh, I have like, I feel like I learned a lot in medical school. And while I know that some of that has like transferred over whenever I'm in, like surgery rotations, and there's a lot of medical stuff that comes up, but then there's a whole surgical aspect about things, even just the way they do certain ties or the reasons that they do certain things that it's not explained at all in medical school. And so, you have to like read all these certain, you have to read up on that kind of stuff or it'll catch you off guard.
Yeah, it was a lot of time in the beginning, like in the first like couple months. Obviously, my residents would walk me through procedures that the correct way to do everything. Then it's a lot of just you know make everything the best that you can. And so if you want to be good at something, it comes down to practice, practice,
Mm-hmm.
practice, practice, practice. And so, my first month or two, I was buying pig feed, I was suturing, I was practicing, I was, I wanted to make sure that I was do the best job that an intern could do. And so I was just always practicing, watching videos, learning how to do things in whatever free time that I had. And it definitely made a difference. You knew the steps to the procedure. Doesn't mean you always knew how to do it right, but at least you had a pretty good understanding. And then your senior would, walk you through or help guide you through the aspects that you're unfamiliar with.
So you think because that's what I was going to ask you is what would be a good tip to beginning either, I guess technically either residency, but the continuing the education and really working on what you need to work on. Do you think that's what helped you out the most when you were first starting?
Yeah, it's just came down to effort and how much time and practice I put into it. Like throwing, knots, suturing. Like after you did a basic I&D, like go through the appropriate steps every time. Or like placing a chest tube, go over the procedure, watch it over, watch different people do them, watch different techniques, and pick up what you like, what you don't like. And as long as you like just wanted to better yourself, that you just became better naturally through that.
I completely agree with you. I'm glad you actually said that. Because I find that even if you know how to do something, the watching other people do something that you already know how to do, let's say putting in because I'm thinking specifically for my situation, putting in like a peripheral line, like an IV peripheral line with the ultrasound. There's some people you can watch it be done, and then I learned how to do it. But then it came after I learned how to do it, had done it successfully, and then I watched a bunch of other people do it after that. Is when I really started to realize the nuances of what I was trying to like the better ways to get at certain things or where to look. And there's just like a whole nother aspect to it than just mastering the steps. So if you pay attention to how other people do it, it really helps.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm still like learning. We do a lot of midlines or ultrasound guided IVs, and I'm still learning techniques where I'm just like, I can't get this, and then my senior will put it in like 2 seconds. I'm like, how'd you do that? Like I was struggling, and they'll be like, well, I did this, and this differently, and then you adjust the next time you do that, and you adjust your technique appropriately, and it makes a big difference.
Yeah, and at your program, you've got a lot. There's a lot of midlines put in. You've got a lot of stars at putting in some midlines. I've seen it done quickly. I was like, man.
Yeah.
And then they look at you and then they say, man, it really took you a long time to get this, didn't it?
Right.
um,
No, it's the
so you had mentioned that you had done the couples match and everything with your girlfriend. And did
yeah.
you find that it was I don't want to say something and then Cassie or your girlfriend come hunting me down, but did you find that it was helpful for your situation, or do you think that because I have a couple people that they literally just brought up that they didn't know if they should do the couples match or not because they thought it might hurt their chances. Did you think it was helpful for your chances or harmful?
I forget. I feel like some people say it's helpful, some people it's not. I forget. I didn't really look into the algorithm that intensely on how they do it for couples matching versus a normal match process. It is a little different. I remember the basics of it. It's difficult if you're both trying to match into the same specialty. So we were both trying to go emergency medicine. So so the programs we were applying to, and we had a lot. We had at least I'd say 8 or 10 of our like 12 or 14 were the like same hospital systems. So you need them to like both of you, not only like both of you, rank both of you very high, and it was difficult. I know a lot of friends that did match successfully, or excuse me, couples match successfully. I really don't know if it hurt them in regards to the process, if like they got ranked lower, if it changed where they ended up going in the long run.
Yeah,
It's a
I
tough
think
question, to be honest.
it is a tough one because you really can't tell. I know some people that have said it was very successful. I've heard a lot of people say that it was successful and maybe they got an opportunity that they wouldn't have because their significant other messaged the program and
That is true.
after
I've heard.
and
Yeah,
you
I've
can
seen that.
so I've seen that there's that benefit. I've seen that if you're not couples matching, if you're couples matching, but you're not an actual couple, sometimes they can come at you too. And if they figure out that you're doing that, you have no chance.
Yeah.
And but besides that, I haven't really heard. I could see how it would be difficult though. What you're saying is if you're going the same specialty, especially if there's not a lot of residents in that special, like some programs that only take 5 people, that one would be a tougher sell for a couples match in the same um, specialty.
Yeah. And emergency medicine, I don't know if it was due to COVID, how that changed people's perception of the specialty. Not this most recent match, but the first one, there was like no spots left open. Like that was a very full class that applied into emergency medicine that year. So there was like very few open spots, and it was pretty competitive the previous year. This year, I think there was more spots
It's
open as
crazy.
emergency medicine didn't fill as much as it did the previous year.
Yeah, it literally was night and day. Because one, I remember it was very, very competitive, and they were, and then it just for some reason, and I think COVID had a lot to do with that as well. A lot of people didn't know where the whole standing of emergency medicine was at anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But so now you have because now you have matched in the same program as your girlfriend.
Yes.
So how is it having her as your technically senior resident? Or
Uh, I haven't had a shift with her, unfortunately. We, no, I'm excited too, though. So it's not weird or bizarre. A lot of surgery residents give me a hard time about it that she's my chief, or you have to look to her for everything. Um, we'll
well,
work
you had to do
well
that
together.
anyway.
Yeah. Facts. No, we were partners in medical school throughout our third and most of our fourth year. So we did every rotation together. We were partners through everything from the beginning of medical school, and we worked really well together then. In regard, and you're still kind of competing, like no matter how you want to think about it. I'm not like very competitive in regards to like I wouldn't like put her down or anything, but in the end of the day, when people are looking at you and judging you, you get paired against them. You need something to compare it to, and it was my partner. So when it came down to it, we were always competing like against each other. I think we did it in a very professional, cordial way where we both made each other look good. She would, if I was struggling through something, she would, if I was getting pimped, she would kind of fill in and help me out. I would do the same. So I ask her a lot of questions about the process of the emergency department, and I'll ask her if I see her on shift or something, and she has answers for me. So we haven't worked together. I'm excited to. I don't know. I know will be great as a team together because we are as a couple. So
Mm-hmm.
it'll be interesting. I think in a week or two as we have our first shift together.
Oh yeah, y'all be coming in as a full couple team. It'll be a family affair.
Right? Yeah.
That it honestly though, I could see where, it could be uh a little bit dicey, but you gave such a great professional answer that I think you're in the clear at least for now until she's actually working with you and you mess
Yeah.
up.
Yeah. Very true.
um
No.
but
Yeah.
so it was
I'm
okay,
not concerned.
you're not concerned.
No, at all. I know we'll work well together. I know we'll be a good team, and it's just
Mm-hmm.
it's literally not even a thought. I'm
Oh,
sure
I'm
some of the
sure, dude.
chiefs are
I'm just giving you
probably
a
like
yeah.
concerned, or some of the attendings are, but I'm not. It's not.
They're not gonna let you
You
take breaks together, that's for sure.
know. Yeah, they'll
Uh
be counted every second.
yeah. When so you met in Grenada, correct?
Yeah,
Were y'all dating in Grenada or was it when you came back for your clinical rotations?
we started dating after second term, so after our first year on the
Okay.
island.
So you've got some history. It's been a couple years now.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well,
Yeah.
she's great. So I can't believe that she would give you that much of a hard time anyway. But it's just fun to because I know for a fact my girlfriend, even the one thing I have on her is that I understand medicine and she doesn't. Like she's not in
Hmm.
medicine at all. and she
Okay.
still doesn't listen to my medical advice. So I can't even believe if your girlfriend knew medicine and then you try to explain to her something medical, you're like, she still won't. My girlfriend still won't listen to me. So good luck with that, man.
No, we complement each other. Like I was talking to you earlier in this podcast, I understand like core, like fundamentals, and she has a crazy memory, like stuff where I'm just like, how do you remember that? And so it's a good combination.
Mm-hmm. No, yeah, and y'all are both like really good people. So honestly, I don't have I know it won't have any problem when in your in your EM residency. How many years is it?
So emergency medicine for our program specifically is 3 years. The
Hmm.
majority of the programs across the U.S. are 3 years. There are four-year programs as well.
Okay. And did you, when you were deciding where you went, would you have taken a fourth year program as opposed to the 3 year, or did you really want that 3 year?
I really wanted the 3 year. I would have done 4 years. I applied to two of them. I think Lincoln and New York City is a 4 year, and I think I could be wrong. Don't hold me
Hmm.
to that one. I think there's one in Connecticut as well. I applied to, and I was more than willing to do a 4 year program. Yeah.
Yeah, I know a couple people that are, I think they're in the Lincoln program right now, and they're, it's not a bad deal at all for them. And so I was just curious to see if you wanted specifically to go back to that to the hospital your girlfriend was at, or maybe if it was a make or break on the 3 or 4th year. Because some people it is. Some people are very, very, very particular. But I feel like
No,
that you
def-
can't be like that.
no, you can't. I mean, you have to be, especially when you're getting ranked, you have to be open to not everything's going to be cookie cutter the way you want it.
When you were applying, because so I'm currently going through the application process now.
Mm-hmm.
Um, what what do you think was the best part of your application, or what allowed you to stand out? You said you had gotten a lot of interviews or interview opportunities. So what do you think helped you stand out?
So the second time, I think what was my letters of recommendation, my second time applying through the process. The first time, I think that was something that I lacked in my application, which medical students, I know they say it's important, but I think there's a higher pull in the importance of that overall. I mean, no matter what, when you ask a program, they're going to give you some bureaucratic answer of everything's important as a well-rounded applicant. Obviously, you need to have the marks, but I think letters of recommendation are extremely important because that's the true evaluation by someone who's in the field, who has seen student after student go through and are able to make certain remarks that can make you memorable or not memorable. And I think the first go around, I didn't have the best letters. Second time I did, coming out of surgery. And I think that has a lot to do with, your success because, it's an algorithm. You have to make sure that you have certain scores to get into certain programs. You have to make sure that you have everything filled out. If you have research that puts you into a different bucket, you need to make sure everything's in on time. And so I think the letters of recommendation, if I just put myself as a program director, I want to put a lot more weight on those. And then if you think even emergency medicine, the slows, like there's a whole reason why they, do that separately compared to the rest of any specialty is that you're working with the team. And I think the slows or slowies have a very, I would say, a strong pull in regards to, your application.
I think I agree. I think it depends on the specialty, certainly. Especially the more uh, I guess the more difficult specialties to get into. I can't think of the word right now. But the more specialized the specialty,
Yeah.
the better the more they focus on scores and stuff like that. But it's really, you really need to figure out what you're applying to. and then you need to get, to attack that angle by whatever means necessary, like whether it's the slow for EM or, I think also surgery, that's a lot on letters of recommendation too. I know a lot of people that have said that they believe they got into the program that they got into due to their letters of recommendation.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm actually all down for that being what gets you in, as opposed to just solely test scores or I would go for that too if I was the director. I guess that's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, I worked with medical students all of last year in surgery, and even now in the emergency department, I work with them. Our program doesn't have first years work with them, but it's very evident what medical students are, at different levels. Like you can easily, I can put them in a separate category in my head and say, wow, that student was outstanding, like hands down, like that student's going to make an amazing doctor. I already know. And
Mm.
so, like, just being able to see it working with medical students, it's very, very obvious who's going to kind of shine and who's your average run of the mill student. And it all depends on what their interests are, and like in the rotation.
That was your opportunity to say that I was above and beyond. But all right, we'll just take it as. No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
Yikes.
I'm just playing with you, dude. Um, yeah, I think that it is. I would definitely rather have it via the letter of recommendations. Yeah, when you were applying, did you use any resources to look up certain programs?
I did. There's something through, I can't think of it right now.
Oh
Whoever
my God.
ERAS is through, they have a secondary tool that you can use. I don't know if a lot of medical students do it. Being from a foreign medical school, you can look at all the statistics through this. I forgot what this like second like app is. It's like a supplementary thing that kind of breaks down each program and like what percentages they pull in from whatever. So that was one tool I looked to see what of certain classes, what percentage were foreign medical students. And
Mhm.
it's a number. A lot of this is a numbers game. I'm gonna try to apply to foreign medical or programs that allow some foreign medical students, because there's other programs across the US, more than half of them have never accepted a foreign medical student. So what makes you think that you're going to be that one special one? Especially, I have no ends. Like, I don't know. I didn't know anyone in the medical field. I didn't know any program directors or any boards or anything. So there was nothing that special about me where I'm just like, I'm going to apply to this, program that's never taken a foreign medical student. It's just not realistic.
Yeah, Duke. I realize Duke surgery is not really in the cards for me. I've been using a couple of them. There is like Frida, which is the AMA. I think it's AMA. Or no, God, no, it can't be that. Whatever the medical institution is. Do you know what I'm referring to with Frida, the free online database?
Yeah, I don't know if that's the same one I used.
It's
I know the
AM
one I'm
something.
talking about, you used your ERAS login to actually log in to use that
Is
tool that was
did it come
available.
from? I know they had there's like resident report or whatever. I know one that's been super helpful for me. Did you ever happen to use Match a Resident?
I did not.
Oh, okay. I don't know. That one it seems that there you do have to pay for it, but it does like a whole but they give you a little percentile of what you're likely to rank, and it's really, really good. If you have like no idea where you stand, and it calculates your step scores and puts you kind of where you would fit for those programs. And I don't know, that one was super helpful, especially getting the ground running on where I thought that I might have a chance with applying. Yeah, that
Yeah,
was super helpful.
that seems like a great tool, because a lot of this you're going in blind. Like you have no idea about the process. You can have mentors and residents that can help you through it. But if you don't have that, you need some tool to at least give you like an idea or a concept of where you are in this huge applicant pool.
Exactly. Yeah. And I shamelessly had to say it to plug them because they really have been super helpful to me for one. And then also I have we recently just tried to set up a partnership with them so that we could get it cheaper. So we'll be getting
Yeah.
a discount code up to any of our listeners soon if they ever do want match resin. But I didn't know if you had used that because that really was super, like, when you see a 100 or a 97 right beside like a program, you're like, oh, thank God, there's at least somebody that might be able to take me, you know.
Yeah. It also
Okay.
wasn't, I just didn't know about it too. It wasn't like a resource that I had knowledge of. So if you don't know about it, you're not going to use it. So I think it
Exactly.
would have, I think it would have been helpful for me. Definitely.
Yeah, and that's kind of why I started this podcast just so that we can kind of share resources and get everything, everybody can have those resources to use because that was some of the problem with me too, is just like studying for medical school was I didn't realize all the resources that were out there until halfway through. And then I was like, oh, okay, it's not as difficult as it appears. I just didn't know
Yeah.
where to go for the right information.
Yeah. And then you found sketchy and your whole life changed.
Exactly, though. Exactly. Sketchy and Picmonic, baby. Those things will take
Yeah.
you through. Do you have any advice for people that are, since I brought up medical school and like resources and everything, do you have any advice for people that are going through not just international, but maybe even US medical school, like what resources to use?
I would talk to your class, see which one they're using, and then use what works best for me. Or
Hmm.
excuse me, what works best for you? What worked best for me was something that was visual. I'm a visual learner, so like reading words, I'm not like that. I did bad on my MCAT on the verbal reasoning. I'm not that great with like reading, and so all of a sudden we have this resource that is orientated towards how I learn, and I used it. I'm like, I'm never like, why would I ever use anything else? And so just try different things, but definitely commit to, a few resources. Don't spread yourself too thin. Find what works best for you and just have a system and just do it. Everyone's going to have everything different. They'll be like, oh, you should use this, you should use that. That doesn't mean that it works best for you, despite being a good resource for them.
Yes, I found that that was very, very common in medical school was somebody would say that they had a resource that you needed to use or say that your resource that you were using was bad. And then you came to find out that their resource was not very good as well. So just having a grip on what resources are available and which ones are good means the world.
Yeah. I think in general, I think, if you talk to enough people in your class, you'll have a general idea of like the main, things that go around like sketchy, pathoma, Jason Ryan, some of the core, material that are supplemental that are actually very well done, and everyone, should at least try them out once.
Yes, I found that like even talking to upperclassmen too was very helpful in my regards because there was a lot of information that could be passed down, like whether they had books or just any kind of diagrams that were really helpful, or they would subtly be like, oh, yeah, don't forget this question or don't forget this topic.
Yeah,
And you would be surprised how much that mattered way more than spending hours reading. It was like studying smarter, not harder.
definitely. I'm a big proponent for that as well.
Yes. So how do you balance, because now that now you're in EM, how did you balance your life in surgery? And then how did you balance, what do you do with your free time? How do you just balance everything in general?
I mean, I don't know. I'm kind of a psycho, like red flags in regards to my time. I don't need much sleep. And I went into residency saying that I didn't want my social life to be impeded by my job. And I made that true. So when most people were sleeping or, relaxing, vegging out because they worked these hard shifts, I was, after 24, I'd go out and hang out with friends all day and go out and enjoy my time. But I made that a priority. So I it's kind of what you want to make a priority will like come in regards to balance. I would say the best thing is just schedule time blocks to do certain things. Like say you have, there's certain things you want to do during the week, just schedule a block. You don't have to do it that one time, but just make sure that you're making time available to see friends, family, go out and eat. Whether if there's you have a side hustle, make sure you allot time for that. Whatever is important to you. Otherwise, it'll slowly and not slowly, it'll very rapidly disappear because you're going to be exhausted and you're not going to want to do anything.
Exactly. That free time rapidly disappears.
Yeah.
When you make do you make like a list of what is most important to you that you want to spend the most time with, or do you mark out like specific times that you are going to spend at certain for certain endeavors? Or
Yeah, the latter. I just have a time block. I use my Apple like task manager or whatever it is and I have a list for today, tomorrow, the week, and the month, and I just put things that I want to make sure that I want to get done and cross things off. Kind of day by day will determine what is a higher priority for me, but I just use that to make sure that I get things done, and then in a calendar I'll just block time off for certain things after a shift.
okay, yeah, that I found is the best way. If you mark 15, 30 minutes, because I'm currently doing like some research, and then on top of that, there's a bunch of other things that have to be settled, and with the podcast and all that, that if you just set some time away for that, you find that you work hard, like you can get it done way quicker if you only know you have 15 minutes as opposed to an hour, and then you're just
Yeah,
hanging out.
and you're talking to a master procrastinator over here where everything everyone does it though. I'm always writing a paper the night before, no matter I can have 5 years beforehand, I'm doing it the night before. And so, but yeah, slowly, putting time towards something actually encourages you to slowly chip away at it.
Mm-hmm. So true. That was my problem in college too. You have a paper, you had it the whole semester, and then some night before, and you're like, where the hell did the time go? Trying to
100%.
write something down.
Every paper, I feel like 100% was getting done the night before.
Yes. When you said that you had other entrepreneurial opportunities that you were looking to seek out, do you want to take some time to, what are those opportunities?
Yeah, so a long goal, more something when I'm done with residency that I'm slowly working on throughout residency that I will become a service is I want to bring back the physician house call. It's not really popular right now. It's kind of becoming more of a idea or a concept now that we have telemedicine, and sending a provider to someone's house is, kind of, I mean, it's not a new concept. Your doctor, used to come out and talk to your parents, grandparents. Doctor would always come to the house. It kind of faded away. I think in regards to cycles, I think it will be something that comes back, and I want it to come back. I think it's something that's important. It's, I think it's best for what the patient needs. We live in a society that is centered or, patient focused, consumer focused, and everything comes to you. You can get a car on Carvana, comes to you. Your food comes to you. You can gamble from your phone. Why shouldn't your doctor or provider come to you? I think it's a very loving, caring message that someone's willing to come to you, and especially people who can't leave. You have parents that have busy lives. Everyone's working. Moms, dads. You are busy, and so I want to bring this I guess, this model, healthcare model, and make it more of a access, more accessible to the general public is what I want to do. There's companies out there that do it right now. Amazon tried. They recently actually gave up on that concept. Instead, they're buying a company. But they had the same idea back in 2019. They had Amazon Care to bring providers to the house. So I'm working on that. It's a long, time consuming business that I'm, working on slowly. But what I want
Yeah.
to do is provide pediatric, family medicine, geriatric, as well as urgent care, where you'll have a physician nurse that comes to you to get all your care done. And I think that that's right. I think it's the right thing for the society that we live in. It's what I think the general public deserves, in my opinion.
I couldn't agree more with you. Honestly, that is an awesome endeavor. I actually think that that would be super beneficial. So my girlfriend, she has a grandmother who, I mean, she just doesn't leave. She's very old and frail. Her mentally, she's all there. She just her body is kind of going,
Yeah.
and it's so difficult to get her to the hospital. And sometimes she has a UTI or some things happen that she doesn't necessarily need to go to the hospital,
Yeah.
or and some things could be handled exactly what you're referring to. And I know that her family would love that. Right now, like if this is my girlfriend's grandmother, her mother, which is the grandmother's daughter. I know that just got kind of confusing for a second, but she's having to take care of her mom.
Yeah.
So if you have somebody that could come and swing by and take care, and you could actually rely on the care, that would mean the world of difference, as opposed to just, I don't know. And I also think that when you said pediatrics too, I was like, pediatrics and geriatrics could benefit so much from this. Not just the whole family medicine in general, but both of those, where you have kids that are sick, but you still have to get, um, or you just are not sure what they have. It could be, that could be very beneficial. Would
Yeah.
you carry on?
I think for the patient, for the healthcare system in general, it's I think it's what's best in my opinion, and that's why I'm starting this company up.
I remember in Grenada. So one of the doctors that we actually used to. Did you ever work with Dr. Oki?
Yeah, I did.
So he was a family practitioner, but he would do house calls. And so
Mm-hmm.
this guy that we're referring to, he was a tutor in for that he would come. He was an actual practicing physician in Grenada, but he would also tutor us when it came to like pathophysiology and a couple of the harder topics when it came to med school. And he did house calls as well. And he would talk to us about how he really enjoyed the fact that he did the house calls because he got to see where the patient was living, look in their fridge, be like, hey, you have diabetes. Why is there only, crap in your fridge? Or just get to see how the patient's living. It allowed him to do a whole nother, helped him to care for the patient way better
Yeah,
and give.
it's 100% what's right for the patient. Unfortunately, we live in a very hustle bustle healthcare system where it's you only get so much time allotted. But you think about why the majority of people went into medicine, and it's to appropriately care for their patients and do what's best for them. And so hopefully I can create a model that can do that for the patients and in the comfort of their own home.
Dude, I think that would be great. So when you're starting it up, I guess you start the program, and would you do it, I guess, like app based? You could set it up, or would you have to already be part of this, or would you set up as like a firm? We don't even have to get into the technical details. I guess that's because I
Yeah,
didn't know if
well,
you would be a firm, and then you would, from there, people could just reach out to your service and you could send whoever you need to that
yeah.
location.
So the idea is I'll have this company that will provide resources, it will provide insurance for providers, it will give the providers what they need to practice with their patients and give them the resources and tools to do so, the medical record system. However, they're able to have their own patients, their own clients that they would otherwise not be able to compete in this healthcare system of all these giants that kind of run our healthcare system right now. So that's the end goal. It's a long ways away. However, I think provider, patient, insurer, I think it will all work out to uh, really just be a great model to work on moving forward.
Oh, I 100% agree. I think it's a great model. Your biggest challenge is going to be fighting back against the powers that be that are in the healthcare and that already have their teeth sank into the healthcare industry.
Oh yeah, I'm ready. It's gonna be a
Dude,
long
I
battle.
bet
I
it's
know what
gonna.
I'm up against. I mean, I think Tim Cook said it. You know, those who are crazy enough to think that they can change the world are the ones that actually do. So I know my idea is crazy. I'm fine with it. However,
No better quote.
I'm I'm ready to do it.
That's awesome, dude. And you had also mentioned that you were doing this AI surgery project as well on top of that.
Yes. So on top of that, I'm doing yeah, an AI surgery project. I wrote a chapter in a book already. It's I went to one of the chiefs of surgery who I knew was a big proponent for robotic based surgery. He did a lot of surgeries robotically. I asked him, you have any, robotic research that you're interested in? I would love to help you out. Like, it's an interest of mine. I know it is of yours. And he had this idea. It's not a novel idea, but, you know, for a lot of our laparoscopic procedures, we're using a camera. So in a 3D environment, we're using a 2D interface. So it causes optical illusions. There's some problems that exist in the surgical field that are well documented, well, described in the literature of, problems doing things laparoscopically. And I
Mm-hmm.
also see the transition. We could start with open procedures, then we went laparoscopic, then robotically, and just the progression of surgery, is going to be AI assisted surgery. Like, there's not a doubt in my mind this is the next progression in the practice of surgery. And you look at it everywhere in medicine. You look at your imaging, you look at your EKGs, you look at hospital workflows. It's just such an efficient way to manage things. We have what we call artificial intelligence. And so we're going to do it in the end goal. What I want to do is prevent CBD injuries for cholecystectomy, either done laparoscopically or robotically, and have this algorithm that I'm training, this CNN cognitive neural networks is what I'm training with these images, certain anatomy within the abdomen. And so with the end goal of preventing any type of injury that may occur, I mean, it's well documented that CBD injuries happen 0.5 to 1% of the time. Cholecystectomy is one of the most popular surgeries, not popular, but in regards to the amount that are performed each year
Yeah.
across
Oh,
the world, it's up there. It's that and your appendectomies, your bread and
it's your
butter.
bread and butter, baby.
So
Yeah.
exactly. And so if this, 0.5% times, a large number is a lot of injuries. So if I can help reduce that in regards to assistance from a robot for whatever reason, why would you not? How could you say no? It's what's best for the patient.
I think that that's
So
actually brilliant in the way that, like, if you could set up a map and you had almost like and I know that this would be, I think this is where you're kind of like a barriers to where if you move the robot past a certain area where that could be more dangerous for the body, that the AI could kind of stop you, maybe even give you maybe like you could troubleshoot it possibly,
yeah,
but where you can just prevent yourself because that's what you're referring to, right? Like the video will kind of
yeah,
assist you
sort
more
of.
than control the actual hands that are moving the robot.
Oh yeah, definitely. There's going to be zero control. It's going to be this user interface where it's going to be, if you look at Tesla Vision and how Tesla uses their their program, they put boxes over or different objects. It can tell if a person's walking by or not, and it's going to be the same idea, except it will outline the anatomy. So during your cholecystectomies, you take a timeout, you look at the critical view of safety, you identify your structures. During this process that you're identifying your structures before you move forward with the procedure, this would overlay an image. So that would be the AI as well as augmented reality of what's going on in the abdomen. So you'd just be confirming that the anatomy that you think that you're working with is the actual anatomy.
Yeah, that I think that's actually brilliant. I think between that and I also had an idea for because like you just said, the 2D and the 3D. I think training in virtual reality might be how some of the surgical techniques are taught in the future, where you can
Yeah.
actually just do the surgery. in virtual reality. You can even mess up if you had and nothing actually happened. I think that will be because I think a scrub tech was telling me that he was able to do some appendectomy or whatever as like some training in virtual reality. And I was like, oh, that could be a real way of teaching somebody right there.
Yeah, they're really looking into that in regards to AI and its involvement in surgery. That's probably one of the more ventured down routes that they're looking at is how can AI simulate surgery, and you practice on a simulator just like pilots do with all their training, except you're doing it and you have essentially no consequences in regards to patient harm when you're doing these virtual procedures robotically through whatever brand that you use. So yeah, it's a hot new topic for surgical education.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting. They do that whole realm of being, the virtual reality. There's a lot of possibilities that you don't ever expect until they're given to you, and then you go, oh wow, like I guess I could learn surgery from that.
Yeah, it's a good
Interesting.
augmentation at the very least to help supplement your learning, especially in these cases that are very rare. You're expected to do this case, but you might only see it a couple times as a resident, and so why would you not practice on a simulation where you can practice multiple times on something to learn the surgical steps for this?
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And if there was a weird way that how they take YouTube recordings of certain surgeries that would be difficult. And I know even now sometimes surgeons have like looked up just the base, like how somebody else does it. We were talking about how sometimes it's nice to see how other people do things. And if you could
Right.
have that and it was recording, and then you could just make that into a video to teach somebody in case anything went bad or whatever. Oh, I mean, the benefits of that would be great. Nobody
Yeah.
would want to show their mess ups, though. That's for sure. Any
No, definitely not.
complications? That would be tough.
Yeah, but
Um, Carry on.
no, I mean, complications are known. Like, there's known complications to each procedure, so you have to know how to appropriately, handle it.
Mhm. Um, well, I mean, you're exactly right. I don't want to take up too much of your time. So, and you said so many great things today, and I wish the best for your. I mean, I know. I think, for one, I think that AI surgery thing is going to be. It's really, really interesting, and I would love to see the information once it's published and everything. So we'll definitely follow up with you on that. But your other endeavor, the one where I think that could create a lot of help for a lot of people that normally wouldn't reach out for medical help. And yeah, so I think you're in the right course both ways. I know it's taking up your free time, but you're certainly doing the most for the betterment of you know your community and society in general. So we applaud you on that over here. That's for sure.
I appreciate that.
No problem, dude. And yeah, honestly, but yeah, honestly, I think we should just kind of wrap it up unless you have anything. I do have, do you have any recommendations for me personally, like what I should do, or things that I should consider? We talked a little bit about it, but I never really asked, in
For
going through my
you,
endeavors or anybody in general, not necessarily for me, but
I mean, like I said before, as an intern in emergency medicine, you rotated through a hospital. I wasn't able. I don't directly work with the medical students. However, just keep doing what you're doing. When I would see you do like, I'm always, I'm very observant. So I through my periphery, kind of had an idea of what level you were, and just keep doing what you're doing. You're doing a great job. It's very evident in regards to this podcast, and your interest in medicine as a whole is, very blaring. And so, in regards to talking about, any other medical student, it's more of fine. Just if I'm going to give a piece of advice, it would be find whatever interests you. There's so many things. You're in a sea of so many other medical students where you all blend together. Find something where you hear a lot about find your why. find something that you're interested in that you when you work on it, it doesn't seem like work. And I know everything, takes so much time in medical school. You're very limited in what your time was. I didn't have very much that I was super interested in. But if you do find something, just be the best in it. Like, just research, look it up, study, ask people. If you're curious, at pretty much any attending I've ever worked with, no matter how nice, how stern, they are willing to teach and they're willing to help you out if you're interested in. So find an interest and just go with it.
Dude, that is the perfect way to end. Ryan, thank you so much. I hope that everybody listening has enjoyed. I certainly have, and you've helped me out a ton. So thank you again for taking the time. Uh, dude, you're amazing. Thank you so much, Ryan.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. I appreciate the time.
Then the next time we'll be in person. We'll have more fun then.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, buddy. I hope you have a
Won't
safe drive
be out
and
of
enjoy your time with your
Thank you.
family.
Will do. 100%. Thanks for
All
your
right.
time again, and have a good one.
No problem. All right. See you, everybody. Thank you.